Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots, and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
Why didn't you charge any of the other co-conspirators? The election?
Are you going to bring any other charges against more individuals?
We have time for one question. Haley?
Thank you so much, sir. Does today's indictment mark the end of Jack Smith's investigation, or can we expect more people to face charges?
So immediately after the January 6th attack on our democracy, the career men and women of the Justice Department engaged in what has become the largest investigation in our history. In November last, I appointed Jack Smith, a special counsel, to take on the ongoing investigation in order to underline the department's commitment to accountability and independence. Mr. Smith and his team of experienced, principled career agents and prosecutors have followed the facts and the law wherever they lead. Any questions about this matter will have to be answered by the filings made.
Are you concerned about this affecting the 2024 election? AG Girl, are you concerned?
You are in the way.
How did we do this? With the additional indictment, are you concerned they will affect the 2024 election, Mr. Attorney General?
Question sarcastically to reporters like you just to see what would happen. Now, disinfectant for doing this, maybe.
My name is Eric Tucker. I'm with the Associated Press in Washington. we are reporting that former President Donald Trump has been indicted by the Justice Department in connection with a long-running investigation into efforts by him and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in the days before the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. This is the latest criminal case to confront Donald Trump as he is now engaged in yet another run for the White House. This investigation concerns a variety of schemes by Trump and his allies to help him cling to power in the aftermath of his November 2020 loss to Democrat Joe Biden. This investigation concerns efforts to block the lawful transfer of power from Trump to Biden, and investigators were looking at all sorts of ways in which Trump and his lawyers and his allies had schemed to prevent him from having to leave the White House. Just as with the other criminal cases that Trump has faced, he'll appear in court in the coming days and is expected to face trial in the months ahead. My name is Eric Tucker, and I cover the FBI, Justice Department, and national security for the Associated Press. Former President Donald Trump has just been indicted in connection with his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, this is an episode in modern American history that's been the subject of public hearings and long-running investigations. For the first time, we now have criminal charges related to a 2-month effort by Trump and his allies to help him cling to power and to undo the results of the presidential election that he lost to Democrat Joe Biden. Here's what we know. This is an indictment that focuses on a very turbulent period between his November 2020 loss to Democrat Joe Biden and the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol. And this indictment alleges that Donald Trump lost the election and knew that he lost the election, but nonetheless for 2 months engaged in repeated scheme after scheme to work to overturn the results so that he could cling to power. It alleges that he enlisted a variety of aides and advisors in these different schemes and turned aside advice from other aides who said, you have to tell the truth, you lost. The indictment also includes some new details that describes handwritten notes from former Vice President Mike Pence. It also says that Trump sought to exploit the chaos of January 6, 2021 by suggesting that the counting of electoral votes should be further delayed until everyone had cleared out of the building, which was again a way to ensure that he could remain in power.
Documents the president decides to take with him, he has the right to do so. It's an absolute right. This is the law. And that is something that people have now seen, and it couldn't be more clear. They ought to drop this case immediately because they're destroying the country.
We know that Donald Trump is due in court on Thursday afternoon. He's going to be appearing before a judge, Tanya Chutkan, who has handled many cases involving January 6th rioters. She is known for being very tough on those defendants and for believing that January 6th was a disgraceful day in American democracy. And so that is not the most favorable judge in the courthouse that Trump could have drawn.